Welcome to Pittsburgh Earth Days, the Dirt Podcast, featuring Grant Ervin, live from the Point Park University Center for Media Innovation. Here is your host, Grant Ervin.
Hello and welcome to the Dirt Podcast, where we get you the dirt on all that's happening in sustainability in the Pittsburgh area. I'm your host, Grant Ervin, Chief Resilience Officer for the City of Pittsburgh. So today, as you can see, we're outside, not in the studio. We're here at fabulous PNC Park with Sissy Burkhart, the Operations Manager for Aramark Facilities here at PNC Park. Sissy, how are you doing today?
I'm great, thank you, and thank you for having me.
I mean, you are our first out-of-studio experience. Not like an out-of-body experience, but out-of-studio experience, and what a great place to be here at PNC. So,
it is.
And understand it's a game day, so you guys are probably busy getting prepped for a 7:05 start, right?
That's correct.
So for listeners, Sissy oversees all aspects of cleaning at PNC Park, along with implementing the green initiatives and programs to be used throughout the ballpark. So we're really excited to learn from you about your experience managing facilities, particularly this gem here in the Pittsburgh area. Maybe to start out for listeners, could you tell us a little bit about how you came to PNC Park? You have a long assorted history with regards to facilities management in the Pittsburgh area. So maybe give us a little bit about your career trajectory and background on Sissy.
Okay, I started out my career in USX Tire as a tenant services coordinator. And then I wanted to improve our recycling program at USX Tower because it seemed like everything was going to the landfill. And I said, this isn't right when we have two compactors, one for recycling and one for trash. And they were both being used for trash. So I came in on my own time in the middle of the night to see what was the problem and how it could be the problem and how we can fix it. With seeing that, I was seeing that there wasn't much sorting and separating and everything was just in a rush to get done. So my thought process was, we'll do it differently. We'll assign people and have accountability for all the recyclable material, all the paper, all the cardboard, just to go into that compactor at USX Tower for recycling. And then the cans, which we didn't have many black plastic bottles back there in 1998. For the cans, we would collect all the cans for the Children's Burn Center.
Interesting.
For in the city of Pittsburgh. And that worked out tremendously because I seen we got attention on that. We got a lot of feedback, a lot of attention, and people were willing to do it.
Wow.
So education is the key in my mind. So I felt really good about that, and I left USX Tower and went to assistant property manager for multi-property. So not being...
And what is multi-property?
Multi-property management was 5 different properties.
Okay.
So you're not on site, they're off site. And trying to review and work with the cleaning contractor at that time, which was Quality Services, working with them, I was able to get them to do some of the recycling as well, and then get reports from Waste Management. Well, that just gives you the power to like, yes, I want to do more, more and more. So when I had the opportunity to come into PNC Park, I was like, yes, this is where I can grow.
So you specialize in marquee properties, like you got the USX Tower, you have here at PNC Park, so you only go for the big ones, right?
Well, there was little ones too.
Okay.
And I could tell you the little ones were easier
Than the bigger ones.
Than the bigger ones, because the little ones, you had more control on where things went. And I would get desk side containers for the different properties, and to find that didn't really work. Because people would put it in both containers, it'd be in their way, a sense of frustration.
Right. So
it was like, okay, that doesn't work. So when I came here at PNC Park, before the sidewalks were even in during construction, and I wore the hard hat and went into going into short hair, I looked at the compactor room and I looked at the footprint and said, this is really not big enough. This is my challenge.
Your challenge.
Yay. So we did have a subcontracted cleaning facility, and I spoke to the property manager from CB Richard Ellis and said, maybe we can do this. And he said, okay, sure, give it a try. So I met with the superiors of the cleaning contractor and said, come on, let's try this. Let's try only to put plastic bottles, paper into the recyclable compactor. And we're already baling cardboard. We're already recycling the wooden pallets. Come on, let's take it one step further. Well, that seemed to fail. So it's like, I need to be in control. I need to be in control. So
Which is true for most sustainability professionals.
Right.
We need that sense of control, right?
Right. So in 2008, Bob Nutting stepped into the picture, my idol. I adore the man.
Okay.
And he said to my superior, what would it take to capture the low-hanging fruit? And I was like, yes.
This is my chance.
This is my opportunity. So I asked for a 3-digit number, and he gave it to me.
Nice.
I said, awesome. Okay, I knew the desk side container wasn't going to work. So we got the little cars to go beside them that we called them mini-me baskets that we hung on the side of the baskets, of their waste baskets beside their desk. And said, only put anything that came out of the ground or anything plastic in that little sidecar.
Wow.
And put all your paper into the trash can. Well, they weren't really complying.
And this is all office materials, correct?
And that was all office materials. And they really weren't complying. And I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We'll take away all the little sidecars. We're not lining your trash can. And the kitchens, the pantries, the break areas are all going to have the sorted and separated stuff. So you have to take your can or your yogurt containers. Well, it did take me going up and saying, look, I'm going to get the green police after you because you're not doing right.
Is that what you're known as? Is like the green police here?
Well, the green queen.
The green queen? Okay.
Yeah. The queen of green.
The queen of green?
It's like, oh, here she comes.
Here she comes.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, we got to get rid of all this styrofoam. We can't have these to-go container styrofoam. We can't have styrofoam cups. Let's get rid of it. So I was able to partner with Aramark F&B, and they kindly removed the styrofoam containers, the to-go containers, serving the meals in it, and they went for the recyclable containers.
So there's a couple important lessons here. So like number one, when you're coming in from literally from the ground level, like you said before, the sidewalks were even paved, there's the importance of getting in on the ground level with regards to like a new construction facility or the opening of a new facility, right? So that you can effectively start to understand the operations from the get-go, but also what types of equipment is required to help a more improved sustainability performance.
Correct.
But also, I'm interested in this idea of from the procurement standpoint. So you're working directly with Aramark in terms of how they're bringing materials, am I understanding that right, into the facility?
It was a lot of support from the Pirate organization and my direct report for the Pirates. It was a lot of support and a lot of pushing and what to put in the contracts. Okay, as the contracts renewed moving forward. We also had Levy Restaurant in here at that time too, and Levy said, yes. And they ran out and bought corn cups, and I was like, oh, well, yeah, exactly. I was like, okay, let's talk about that. And the Pirate organization brought in the National Resource Defense Council, Alan Hershowitz, which I idolized him. And I was like, yes, he can help me get where we need to be.
To have that external support network.
Yes, for the awareness, for the recycling, for the reuse, you know. And growing up, I got to give a lot of credit to my grandmother and my parents because, you know, when you grow up poor, you learn how to do those things.
Learn how to do now, without, right?
And you learn to make something out of nothing.
Right.
So that worked for me and that helped me. And I was so excited at PNC Park to have Alan involved and to have the support of Bob Nunning, the owner. I mean, he's just fantastic. So I got the proper containers, and then it was good enough for me to meet in 2009, meet Carla from AgriCycle.
Okay.
And we joined.
Maybe talk a little bit about AgriCycle, and they're a key partner of yours in this venture.
They are a key partner of the Pirates and PNC Park, because they're very supportive. They helped me with the training program. They helped me with what is actually compostable.
Right.
So, and I was able to put it in layman terms and doing the hiring for the actual sorters.
Okay.
And as soon as I say, do you want to be a sorter at PNC Park to sort the trash from recyclable, from the compostable? You can't, that was the wrong approach. Okay. Wrong approach.
Right.
It's like, do you want to partner with me and be in a relationship where we can make the world go greener?
Right.
So we can do the right thing. And I found that to be a right approach. And I got like 5 really good people that say, you care, I care. Okay, let's care together. Let's work on this diversion rate to keep it out of the landfill.
There's some pretty amazing numbers that you guys have. You know, I was just in researching for the show here, I just want to throw some of these out. 1,500 tons of cardboard.
Yes.
164 tons of fryer oil.
Yes.
198 tons of mixed paper. I mean, talk about the what's, you know, nerds will call the material flow, like all the products and services. So you're looking at both, I'm pointing over here to kind of your administrative offices, the administrative component, but also when you have, you know, 10, 15,000 fans and the products and materials that they're bringing in, right? So there's a full basket, pun intended, of materials that you're looking at. Is that the case?
Yes, but the fans are only allowed to bring so much into the park.
So that's a controlled environment.
That's a controlled environment, and that helps. Now, as you see, I have the Coke bottles around the park.
Right.
We originally bought bottles. Now, Coke sponsors us, and Coke provided these bottles. And it's amazing what you can jam in that little hole, you know, depending on who you're working with.
Right.
But we only put the clear plastic bags in there, so when you pull it out, you can clearly see what's in it, and if it's contaminated. If it's contaminated, you can just pull out some of the stuff and still recycle. Now, for the city, especially when we have high crowds or we have concerts or huge events,
Right.
we will actually pull the city cans and sort and separate those too to aid in the city's recycling.
Thank you.
So, like the city will do it during the week. They'll pull the trash, but I know it goes into the landfill because I researched it.
Right.
And I was like, I don't really want this. So, as we see them, as long as I have the staff, I will go out and collect them for the city and part of the Good Neighborhood program and pick up all the cans so that they are recycled.
That's super helpful. What's, you know, if you were to kind of talk about the trajectory of your recycling program here at PNC Park, what are some of the steps? Like what's a starting point? Like, where did you start? And then what, as it added, you know, like things that you've improved over time?
When we first started, it was primarily, okay, let's get the cans and bottles. And I met with our vendor to do a multi-stream recycling. And I actually visited the MRF, and I went out to the landfill when they dumped our truck.
Which is the municipal recovery facility for listeners, right?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, yeah, we get all kinds of people on the show, so it's interesting.
Okay, yes. And I actually went out to the landfill and stomped through with my hard hat on, got special permission and signed the waivers so I could see exactly what was going to that landfill. And I said, a lot of this is compost, a lot of it.
Interesting.
So I started with paper and plastic bottles, metal cans, and then I moved forward. Okay, well, what can we do with this oil that's now being disposed of? So I did a little research on that, and I was able to get the oil where it's recyclable for biofuel. Yes, let's do that. You know, that's amazing. I want to do that.
So how does that work? That's a really interesting piece, because you have a lot of French fries and you know, hot dogs and things like that are going through a fryer. Talk about that program specifically.
We have what's called our Grease Master, and it's a great big container that's in our compactor room.
Okay.
That we collect all the frying oil. Our partner Aramark F&B, they bring their fryer grease on, and it's pumped into this large container, and then the company comes in and they drain the oil out and they use it for biofuel.
Wow.
So it is amazing, and it's a good feeling that that's going. Now the thick cooking grease off the grill that's scraped, I'm like, don't put that in the compactor. Biobugs love that in compost. They absolutely love it.
Biobugs?
Yes, the biobugs love grease.
Okay, what is a biobug?
A biobug is when you're in the process under a controlled environment of composting, those biobugs will eat away at that grease to make an enhanced soil.
Okay.
Okay, and that enhanced soil is used in different parts, like I know the zoo use some of our compost put in at the Pittsburgh Zoo.
Right.
Now, our planters you see around the building,
All have compost in it.
they have the compost. Now, I can't sit here and tell you that, well, that was definitely the trash from PNC Park, because I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, because it's all mixed together. So it's a great program, and in the future, what I want to see, because I was furloughed last year with 2020.
Sure, it's tough.
You know, so coming back in 2021 and coming into Aramark, it's like, okay, we have to work together and move forward. Because I feel like the whole city moved backwards in 2020 because we were so concerned about, you know, the virus.
Right.
So I want to move forward.
Do you think that let's pick up on that for a quick second, like the opportunity with being furloughed with a season, we were talking about this before we came on the show, you had a half season, like 60 some odd games instead of the normal 162. Did it give you a little bit of insights into operational improvements? And I'll give you an example. Like, one of the things I often talk about to folks, like, to remember those early days of the pandemic when we were in that shutdown period where all of a sudden there was many cars or things happening on the street, so it was quieter.
Yes.
The air was cleaner, the water was cleaner, and so that impact of our footprint gives some insights. And I'm wondering, just with the operations of the park without as many people, did that give you a similar type of like, oh, this could happen, or
I really can't say that it did. And there's so many variables at the PNC Park when you're working with the public,
Right.
depending on your attendance. Like 2014 was a tremendous year for us.
Oh, that's interesting.
It was tremendous, but you got to think about your, all your variables here. But it's important that you sort and you separate and you have the right material going out. But you also have to comply with all the health regulations, health and safety regulations as well. So that's where we're kind of at right now. And we do want to improve.
Right.
And personally, composting is my favorite, and I want to move closer to composting.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't mean that I want you to waste food, because I don't. If you're not going to eat that tomato, don't ask for that tomato.
Right.
It comes with lettuce, tomato, and onion. If you don't want it, say no tomato.
No, thank you. Right.
No tomato. And I even try to tell my staff, bring in your water bottle with you. One year, the Pirates gave away Yeti containers as a Christmas gift.
Right.
And we all have Pirate Yeti containers, that you can reuse. There's hydration stations in the admin building.
Right.
So I notice a lot of people use those. And we're getting into the younger generation where they know. They know, they understand. So moving forward, I want to do the organic virgin recycling called compost.
Wow.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about the compost process in terms of, so you have, are you looking at the full procurement? So like what Aramark is bringing in terms of the types of food,
Right.
and what can be consumed, what is tossed away? Like, walk me through each of those steps if you wouldn't mind.
Correct. And I do look at that, because what we do is we have yellow Slim Jims on dolly wheels to make it easy,
Okay.
with compostable bags in them that are ASTM 6400 that need to be compostable. So it's imperative that you speak to all the chefs and everybody in the prep area that one plastic glove can ruin that. It
Wow,
can contaminate your load.
Right.
I don't want your Kleenex box in there, mainly because there's glue on that, and that's going to affect the soil, the outcome of the amendment that you're going to get from that soil.
Right.
So I'm looking to get all food scraps. So we do in back of the house. It's in every commissary, every kitchen, pantry. We have those compost containers, so we can gather that. And even on a suite level and a club level, leftover foods go into those yellow bins. And then our people collect those bins, and they put them in the large 8-yard containers, and they're picked up after every game day from AgriCycle from their trucks, and they're composted.
Wow. and then they're returning that compost back to your operations.
Yes, in one way or another. Now we have the garden up on the suite level, which was part of my pride and joy. And I wanted to be a part of that, and I helped put the dirt in, and we put containers underneath it so it would be stable.
Right.
And then the plants went in, and they actually made a rain barrel for up there that we capture all the rain to water that garden. And then the herbs and vegetables and spices that are grown in that garden are used in the dishes.
What was the inspiration for the garden?
I want to say the National Resource Defense Council.
Okay.
Because they were very good in giving us next steps.
And where is it located? I'm just
National Resource Defense.
No, the urban garden.
Oh, it's on our suite level plaza.
Okay.
And it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. We have flowers in there because of the weather and because of, just getting in, not knowing how many guests we can get in. But we do have herbs up there.
Okay.
There are herbs growing up there. In prior years, we would grow the tomatoes up there that would be used in your salad.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're getting significant production from the garden also?
Yes.
Wow.
It can't give you everything
Sure.
for the amount of crowd that we had, but it adds to it.
Yeah.
It adds to it, and it's just a great thing. So when they change out the plants or they weed the garden, then we take that 8-yarder up there and we make sure that goes back into
the compost.
And it goes back into compost. And again, that organic recycling.
Right.
So it's just a wonderful thing. And I'm looking at cutlery now. Cutlery is my biggest thing right now.
Okay.
Because
switching from a plastic cutlery to a compostable cutlery.
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't want my staff to have to look at a back of a fork and read it. I don't want my staff to have to look at the bottom of the cup to see if it's recyclable. So it's pretty much all the souvenir cups and all the mixed drink cups are all recyclable. Number one, recyclable.
Are you finding it difficult to find those products, or is it becoming more and more easier to find compostable products that you can put into your supply chain?
Before 2020, like the beginning of 2021, it was difficult to get product.
Right.
So restaurants and suppliers were giving you what they got. But in 2019, I found compostable products were not only comparable, some of them were even lower cost.
Yeah, prices are going down significantly.
So, that's wonderful. And I'd like to see everything be compostable, so we get that organic. I'd like to see in the future, there was a year where all the staff was given water bottles with the pirate logo on, that they could take out while they were working. And that was wonderful because you got to reuse it, and I've seen so much less cups being used.
That's interesting. Do you guys have a pretty, I'm going to assume some of this, but can you talk about your usage of data and how you're better understanding where, these great numbers you provide in terms of the tonnage? What's that data collection system look like for you guys?
The data collection system is reports from our vendors, like the reports from the grease recovery system, the reports from waste management, because we have a recyclable compactor and only recyclable goes in there.
Yep.
Okay, and I check that periodically. We even have an open top on the dock that's only for recyclable items through Penn's Wood, which is your wood. That your leftover lumber, your metal carts that are no good anymore, and I monitor that. I look at that because it's right across from the commissary. It's easy to put a bag of trash in there.
So you're building into a vendor's contract their need to report data back to you.
Yes.
Okay. And then are you packaging that together in a dashboard or kind of a simple way for you to review that information? Or?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Not at this time because, like I said, 2020
you have an
just
intern over there now. We should.
Yeah.
We should get.
Yeah. We do, and I'm excited to have her on board.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because we've seen a lot of this at the city is trying to collect data is really difficult. It's a challenge because it's disparate, it's everywhere. In fact, we're going through this project right now of trying to create a dashboard, if you will, where we have a number of disparate data sets with regards to energy or fleet or composting, material waste, so that we can put it in a single space and then identify where we're lagging, where we need to improve, etc. But you're right on, like it's super difficult to gather that information in one space.
It really is. And like I said, we have so many variables here, and one person may like it that way and another person may like it that way. Like there's people that don't share my thoughts on compostable.
Right.
Oh, everything should be recyclable. It's so much easier. Let's just do recyclable. No. Yeah. That's not the best way to go.
Not all the time.
Yeah. It's not the best way to go. So it's just like I'm moving more towards compostable, and I'd like to see the cutlery go into compostable as well. And sometimes you get some negative feedback, but between reducing the water, reducing the lighting, reducing all the energy at PNC Park, which we have done over the years and they continue to do, using recycled material. Like our toilet paper is 100% recycled material.
Wow.
Our paper towels, now they're still soft, they're still nice, they still absorb well, they're not brown, they don't fall apart in your hands, but they're 45% recycled material.
You're starting to see more and more quality material that is post-secondary consumer materials and the like.
And all our printers here at PNC Park are defaulted for two-sided.
I was going to wonder about that too. You talked a little bit about energy. What have you seen in the stadium's operations? What are some of the examples of things that you guys have worked on over the years to help advance energy efficiency in the ballpark?
PNC Park was built with energy conservation in mind. So we already had low flow fixtures. We already had the low energy exit lights. But the other lighting, like the sports lights, they have totally been been regenerated. Renovated.
Wow.
Yeah. And to make sure, once there is a project done, to make sure all the material you take out of here is recycled. And it's tough sometimes finding a textile breaker.
Yeah.
It's tough sometimes, like we're trying to find a home for glass right now. Now, glass is a wonderful material because you can recycle that into infinity.
Right.
So why are we not recycling that? So I think we need to reuse that more.
Find new avenues for it.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. So we're kind of looking into that now. And it, like I said, the footprint's kind of small. So you can't have a Gaylord of glass here. You can't have, so we have to do more of, like we have a vendor that comes in that does all our light bulb recycling, all our battery recycling.
Okay.
So none of that goes into the landfill.
That's really terrific.
So we collect that and we put that in with our supply of our new light bulbs. And we gather that, and then we have our vendor come in and pick it all up. And even our oil, our used motor oil, we have Safety Clean come in.
Okay.
And they do take the used motor oil. So that it doesn't go where it shouldn't go.
It's really interesting. So you've been able to help kind of guide the entire supply chain from what comes into the park, what happens through the operations, but also on the back end.
Yes.
The back of house component, which I think is often forgotten, right? Whether it's a company like AgriCycle or somebody who's collecting the batteries, that you have to think in that continuous framework from the beginning to the consumption to the end in terms of how you dispose of everything.
And you learn something every day. Every day you learn something about this. When I initially started out, I went to a meeting on, I want to get a LEED certification. Right. I was still at CB Richard Ellis. It was 2010. And I said, come on guys, come down and tell me what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong.
Okay.
And CB Richard Ellis came in and I took them on a little tour, and they said, well, Sissy, you could get a LEED certification right now. And I was like, wow, that's awesome, but there's that cost. That cost of getting a LEED certification. So then you have to decide, am I going to do the right thing, or am I going to be a show-off and say, I got this big LEED certification?
Right.
So I lean towards, let's do the right thing.
Okay.
So it wasn't really advertised year by year by year exactly what we got done. It was just the right thing to do, the good thing to do. And having Bob Nutting in place
having
was
the leadership
tremendous.
is really important.
It was tremendous help.
You know, one thing I wanted to note too is that you all were the winner of the Green Glove Award for the National League Central teams. What's the network of Major League Baseball teams in this space? Like, I would imagine that is sustainability as competitive, as it is on the field in the baseball world? Is sustainability as competitive between the teams?
Absolutely. And I'm competitive as well, because it's very important to me to be the best I can be in everything that I do in life.
Right.
So the Green Glove Award, I actually went out to, like, how's Seattle doing this? How's San Francisco doing this? And the Pirates are generous enough to let me go out there and make the trip out there and find out how it's being done.
So the Mariners were one of the leading teams?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. And I went out there and I looked and I say, wait a minute, their government is doing a lot of their stuff. It's not the cost of the owner, It's mandates, it's compliances, it's ordinances. I mean, and that's what they were doing out there. So I was like, okay, that's why. I mean, they had a company that took their stuff and sorted and separated it off-site. And then they got this nice report back saying, oh, this was recycled. Yeah. And I was like, well, it's not that easy over in Pennsylvania. In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, it's not that easy.
No, certainly not.
Yeah, so I think, okay, we got to look for our leaders to do that.
Okay.
We got to go a little further up the chain, whether it's the city, the state, the county,
Right.
And I got involved in Sustainable Pittsburgh, in the Green Sports Alliance, which was absolutely wonderful. And you learn so much, and then you just take those ideas back and you try to enforce them. And it's got to be, everybody's got to be in it together.
Right.
It certainly was not just me in any way. Without the support of leadership, you can't do that.
You can't do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
What are the, I've seen this, on the city side, like we have a network of professionals called the Urban Sustainability Directors Network. So this is my colleagues in Seattle and St. Louis and Chicago, so a lot of the same cities. And you're right, like there's a little competition, but there's also a really collegial learning environment that we have from one another. What are some of the things that you've picked up from your colleagues in other cities that either you've been able to implement or they're in the back of your mind right now that you're like, I'd like to do what St. Louis is doing, or fill in the blank?
And a lot of that was, ideas that I got from different ballparks, like I love the idea of all the flowers around the park and using the compost and the urban garden. I've seen things like that in other ballparks, and just discussing the healthy options.
Yep.
And the healthy options and the organic foods here are a big part of our sustainability and what is being served and what we're putting into our bodies.
That's interesting. It's funny you say that too, because a question for you is, do you go to other ballparks as a fan or as a sustainability professional, or as both? Because I notice, like, when I go to other cities, like, my wife thinks I'm really weird because I'll be like, well, look at those street lights. Those are LED street lights. Or look at that rain garden over there. And she's like, we're on vacation. Like, quit. But do you do the same thing when you go to?
Absolutely, yes. And I could tell you, like, even when I go with my colleagues and it's like, oh, good, let's watch the game. And it's like, I'm going to go get something, okay? Because I
and you're looking at the napkins if they're recycled.
Yes, exactly. Right. And looking at their cups and looking at their lids and looking how, let me go down into their service tunnel and let me see how they're operating. Right. Let me see how they're reducing energy. Let me see how they're reducing water.
That's awesome.
We pressure wash here at PNC Park as part of the cleaning.
Sure.
And it's like, okay, my machines are giving out 5 gallons per minute. That's a lot of water. So I went back and to the manufacturer and said, can we reduce the water per minute? Well, sis, you're not going to get as much. I said, give me 1 gallon per minute. He said, I could do that.
I could do that.
So 1 gallon per minute, and you add up all those minutes, and look at all the water we saved.
That's amazing.
It was.
So just coming up here on time, one last question for you, Sissy. What's on your agenda for 2021? We're here in the beginning of a new season. So what are some things on your to-do list here for 2021?
This year only, before next year, because my ideas are even bigger next year.
Okay.
Just for this year, I want to see all plastic plates gone.
Wow.
I want to see all plastic straws gone. I understand some people have medical reasons why they need a straw.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand not everybody likes compostable straws. When I go into a restaurant and they give me a compostable straw, it's like, yes!
Coming back.
Do you compost? No, I don't. That's all I could get at this time of the year. Bummer.
Right.
Yeah, and I try not to even go to the chains when I go out to eat. I try to go to the little mom
and pops.
Because
sometimes that's where innovation comes from.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And each year, there's less energy used here. Each year, our diversion rate goes a little higher, depending on the variables.
Right.
Because I can find a broker to recycle all that carpet that's just been replaced.
Mm-hmm.
Uniforms. Okay, we're changing uniforms. The whole place is changing uniforms. Do you realize the tonnage in uniforms? Okay, so here I am with 7 tons of uniforms, taking them out to a textile broker through Red, White, and Blue.
Wow, yeah.
On 65. But then at the end of the day, and you watch them actually being baled, this is going to a textile broker.
Yep.
And that's probably my biggest control issue, and that's my issue. Most people don't do that. But
right.
I really want to see it.
You want to follow it all the way through.
I want to follow it all the way through.
Yeah,
I want
that's
to see
certainly
it.
good.
Yeah.
Well, let's leave that as the message of the day. Let's follow it all the way through. Sissy Burkhart, you are truly an inspiration as well as a true gem here in Pittsburgh, and thank you for all the work that you do.
And thank you very much for having me.
This is great. Thanks so much for joining us here on The Dirt. Thank you again, Sissy, and to the team here at PNC Park for giving us this wonderful space. We'll see you next time on The Dirt. Take care.